Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Vandy Blitz. Today, we have an action-packed episode going to talk about some quarterback movement in the NFL, as well as my Utah Jazz playing well, the Milwaukee Bucks having a slight fall from grace, it seems, and some other stuff happening around the various associations that are at the forefront of the professional sports world. But with that being said, I think the first thing that we should talk about, honestly, is this quarterback movement. That's just my opinion because we didn't talk about the Goff Stafford trade. Now there's this Wentz trade. I want to hear what you guys think. What do you think is the biggest move out of the three? We'll talk about that one first, then we'll sort of get through them.
So I think out of the three, the biggest is Carson Wentz trade. I think for the Colts, their O-line and their weapons, Wentz hasn't seen that since 2017, that great season until the playoffs. I'm excited to see Wentz play with those type of players. They made the playoffs. I think he makes them a Super Bowl caliber team. And then you look at it from a Philadelphia point of view. There was clearly some baggage there. They needed to ship him, and that was the most they could get, clearly.
I'm curious to ask, though, do you think that Wentz is an upgrade or a downgrade from Rivers, given his recent play?
Honestly, I'm not totally against Wentz. I know a lot of people don't believe in Wentz because these past couple seasons have been really rough. As Andrew mentioned, since 2017, we've been seeing a shell of himself. But it is relevant to talk about now. He's got an O-line. Now he's got these weapons. I think he definitely had more arm strength than Phillip Rivers, more athletic. He can get outside the pocket, create a little bit more there, run the ball in. It adds a little bit more of a dynamic to this Colts offense from last year. However, I do think there's that intangible. Phillip Rivers is obviously a Hall of Fame guy. He's got the leadership, he's got the knowledge, he's got the experience. So it's a trade-off, but it depends what you're looking for in the identity of your team, I guess, to answer that question. Do the Colts want this seasoned grizzled Hall of Fame vet, or do they want, Carson Wentz is also a vet, but he's not, on the older side as Phillip Rivers is, and he has some upside as well. Because we just saw in 2017 that MVP season. So I think this is an upgrade for them personally, just because I still believe that Wentz has got a couple good seasons left in him. I'm glad he got out of Philly. I don't think that was the right situation. I think him and the coach had a really flawed relationship, and I think Jalen Hurts had his time to step up. But with that being said, I think that answers your question, Joe. But I'd say this is a good move for the Colts because they got it for pretty much.
Joe, I want to add on one thing. Phillip Rivers, when he was with the Chargers a year before last, 34 sacks. Last season, 19. Put Wentz, a person that's not a statue. This team's scary, man. The Colts they were underrated all season, and you have a quarterback that can move. I think it's a great fit.
I agree completely with that. And like something I was talking about with like one of my buddies was like whether this like makes them like that much better than the Titans. And I thought that was the answer. I thought that the Colts are now like the easy favorite to win that division. And I agree with you completely that like this trade puts them in the same conversation as a Bills team or a Chiefs team. Like they're primed to win the AFC this season because they were so close as it was. And with a quarterback that can move out of the pocket, like make plays on his feet and still like complete those. I mean, Carson Wentz has a crazy arm. He throws darts. And I think that's going to work very well with a great receiver in Michael Pittman Jr. Hilton obviously is a beast, and Jonathan Taylor is going to break out.
I think also just to add on, I think it was a pivotal move at the time that it actually took place, like now, because it's key for these like trades to go through now, because you got to think players sometimes are in for the money or not, whatever. Some of them don't control their own destiny and where they go, but some want the rings. Like a guy like T.Y. Hilton, I think he's a contract year for him. He can leave. So like I saw like reports that he was maybe going to come to the Dolphins, whatever, or like a different team. You get a guy like Wentz coming into the building now, and you're like, okay, like we have some hope. Like I'm going to stay another year, and like maybe I'll take a bit of a pay cut to like make this work. Like the culture changes when you do a big trade like this, in my opinion, especially when you're already so close. I think like I said, like you guys already covered it before. The Bills almost lost to the Colts in the first game. the Colts are a great team. And with a couple of plays going the wrong way, they could have won that game. And I think that their defense is dynamic and that their offense is also explosive. Jonathan Taylor's a great running back. And like we said, the receivers are a great core. Wentz needs to play well, but he needs to play well early. This team is going to needs to rely on some momentum from last season and kind of just and make progress. They can't come out slow because it's just going to ruin the whole thing. I think the culture will just go to shit immediately. So they need to come out the gate firing. They need Wentz to be on his A game in the beginning.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Eagles side. I mean, I almost feel that the Eagles left themselves a little bit thin quarterback-wise. Like, Jalen Hurts didn't really prove anything to me when he played. And being a Giants fan, obviously, I watched the Eagles play the Giants and however many other games they played. And Carson Wentz, yeah, like you guys were saying, he had a few bad seasons, but he knows how to play NFL football, if you know what I'm saying. Jalen Hurts had a year, and he was flip-flopping. He didn't really prove anything. He would have really good games, and then he would have the worst game of his life. So yeah, I'm interested.
And they had no film on him. So they couldn't. Really
but my point is, I'm just interested to see how the Eagles fare after this trade, because I don't really believe in Hurts at this point in time, and maybe he is all that, and maybe they believe, and maybe give it a few seasons and he's there, but I don't know. They might go through a rough patch for a few years here. So, I mean, that's not the worst thing in my eyes, but whatever.
I mean, I do think the Eagles, out of a he was MVP in 2017, and you got a second round pick and a conditional third. It's not a great return, certainly. However,
they're paying him $30 million this year not to play on their team.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal situation for them. However, I think Eagles fans, the front office, and certainly the coach were ready to move on from Wentz, just because they felt that they were confident with Hurts. They felt that they had that position shored up, for the future, which I guess we will see because Theo makes some good points. But I do
really that is my point, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the Eagles have a lot of work to do. I think, though, even just without talking about their quarterback, I think they're in a deeper rebuild than you might think, just because that division is awful and anyone can win it any year. But I think the Eagles are amidst a really big rebuild.
Yeah. Also with the Eagles, their defense, their pass rush, you have Fletcher Cox, who's getting old, linebacker for his name. They have no secondary, and their best receiver is a practice squad guy. So you said, Jacob.
But I think it's nice though that I think that this trade though does give them some pros in the way that like Wacker said, the front office is ready to move on, you get some closure there. But you also get some excitement to have a guy like Hurts playing the whole season, you have him from the beginning, you're this is our guy, this is who we're gonna stick with. And it's a young fire player. And yeah, it's I think it's going to benefit the cultures of both teams. It's a mutually beneficial trade in terms of the cultures. Skills wise, I think the Colts probably luck out more and they have more potential to be actually more of a threat. But I think this is a good thing for the Eagles. Don't let the pain just drag out. Don't stay mediocre. Address your needs, get the guy out of there, and try to build right away. That's what they got to do. And I like that, honestly.
Yeah, but Joe, I think the point that you're making a little bit was that the Colts just in general have way more of a solid team as we speak than the Eagles do, which is the point that Jacob was trying to make. So naturally, a quarterback switch, if it's in the order of Carson Wentz, that'll definitely help the Colts out. But the Eagles have problems that go way deeper than that. So
100%, yeah. I was saying just culturally, I think it'll be good for the team because they needed to move on from Wentz. And I think that hurts also just to have like Wacker kind of also reiterated, to be able to rally around someone a young, fiery guy, that will be exciting to see.
All right, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, one last thing before we transition. Carson Wentz is more familiar with this offense than the new Eagles offense because Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator the year they won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz's best season was under Reich's coordination, so I think that's really exciting.
Right. I think you're right, Wilf. I think we're seeing definitely a narrative type year potentially for Wentz, where he can come back and quiet the doubters. Because there was a lot of talk, a lot of slander on Carson Wentz's name last season, especially, and for the past couple of years, it seems. But with that being said, let's end on an optimistic note, the possibility of Wentz in Indiana. I think we transition and talk about this Lions-Rams trade. Really interesting stuff here, because I think that Matthew Stafford is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. I think he's a perennial talent at that position. I think he's got one of the strongest arms in the league. He's underrated in terms of accuracy too. He's just been stuck on the Lions his whole career. And that's coming from somebody who likes the Lions. They just did not give him the right tools. He had good receivers, but he didn't have the right tools to sort of succeed in the way that most legendary quarterbacks succeed, going into the playoffs, trying to push for that Super Bowl, trying to push for rings. Now he finally has that opportunity. This Rams team is pretty exciting. And I guess, what do you guys think of it? Because I think there's a lot to like here.
It's a great team already. They're already such a solid team. It's dangerous when these teams have a great defense, and then they kind of do little quarterbacks, a new quarterback. It all starts with defense, in my opinion, and their defense is already so solid. And then for them to already have such an explosive offense and such a genius in Sean McVay at the helm.
Yeah, and I think what Sean McVay knew is that the Rams have a 2-year window to win, and they gave up their future. They don't have a pick until 2024 when we graduate Vanderbilt. Think about that. They do not have a first-round pick until then. They gave up their future picks because they just want to win now. And McVay knows that. Their defense, they're great, but those guys, they're big contracts, and in 2 years they won't be there. And I think it's a win for both sides. The Lions said, you know what? Let Stafford win. Goff's a good quarterback for right now. He'll be nice, maybe 9-7, maybe. But I think it was a good trade for both, and the Lions get future draft picks, which they wanted.
Yeah. I think Stafford raises the ceiling of this team a lot. As Joe said, this is definitely already kind of a very solid team. It's not like we're oh, what are the Rams going to do next year? This is a playoff team. We know that. Now they have Stafford. And I think this season is really just going to be about seeing what he's capable of. Because we know with this team, with Goff underperforming, the quarterback's injured. I mean, not necessarily underperforming. He was really injured in the playoffs. But we saw the problems in the back. In the pocket for this team this year, just overall at these skill positions on offense sometimes. So it's going to be interesting to see how Matthew Stafford changes that dynamic, and then what he can do, I guess, individually, because I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway here. Not what can the Rams do, but how does this reflect on Matthew Stafford's career with the Lions? What does this say about his time there? And then what does this season, foreshadow for the rest of his time in Los Angeles? But I do want to talk about the Lions trade too, because I don't think it's just about future compensation for them. I think Goff is still a great player, still a good asset. Still, I don't know if he's a top quarterback in the league, but he's certainly
a game
not
manager. He will not win you a game. He doesn't win you a game like Stafford does. He's a game manager.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a hard time seeing the Lions be competitive, even a little bit. I'm not arguing. I think Goff is definitely a serviceable quarterback, but they don't have the tools that they need, and they're gonna lose a lot of weapons. I think Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay are free agents, so those guys, they're both not gonna be there most likely. I don't know. I see the Lions kind of in the same position as the Eagles. They're a couple years away from being competitive. But I just want to speak really quickly about the Rams. I also have a hard time seeing Matthew Stafford in a big playoff game beating a team led by Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady.
I don't, because Jacob.
But we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it.
No, we have seen Matthew Stafford. Have you guys watched the Lions during his
sick?
career?
But we're saying in the spotlight.
I'm not arguing that against the spotlight. I think in the spotlight, in crunch time, he's an elite player in this league. he has the most comeback drives like of any quarterback in the first somewhat number of games.
One season he had like 9 comeback drives or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's also because the Lions sucked and were always behind, but it showed that he was ready to step up and make those plays later down the stretch and win the game for them many, many times. I think like the only one who's done it more than him, I think he's done it the most since he's entered the league. I might be wrong about that. Tom Brady might have done it more, but I'm not sure. But he's up there. Like I'm certain that Matthew Stafford has been mounting game-winning drives for a long time. And now that he has a strong team, strong defense, strong supporting cast, I think we could see that in the playoffs. And I think it's actually an exciting sort of opportunity for Matthew Stafford. Not that I can't see it, because I think there are games where Matthew Stafford will throw 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions is in the last 7 minutes of the game and it's over. Yep. But there's also times where Matt Stafford will take over the game in the fourth. So I think we could see any of those in the playoffs, especially with this Rams team and this defense helping to sort of, control time of possession, limit the other team's offense, that kind of stuff.
Well, whether or not he's for second, if he's compared to Tom Brady, like we're comparing him with the GOAT, so it's a pretty freaking good comparison. But like, I kind of want to explore the Goff side of it again really quickly. I mean, like, I'm kind of interested to see how Goff responds this season, Like, I feel like this is a kind of a crossroads for him as well. Like, he's never really been elite. I mean, I guess you could say the Super Bowl season, he had a pretty good season, but like, I could attribute a lot of what he did, I feel like, looking back on it, to the fact that the offense was so explosive in so many ways, and like, and the teams could barely just keep up with the speed and the trickery and everything that was going on. But he's kind of at a crossroads because he has the stigma around him that like they traded him away because like they don't think they can win with him. That's exactly what it is. They don't think they can go far and win with him, so they got rid of him. That's tough on a person, to actually have to come to terms with that. So he's at a crossroads himself because while I agree with Jacob, I don't really see the Lions for a couple years really winning anything. He can boost his own stock by potentially playing pretty well or showing some resilience and then maybe getting again. Who knows? I don't really know, but I mean, I'm interested to see how he will respond as well. I think obviously it's way more exciting to look at the Rams because, hey, they're great contenders already, and now they have a franchise quarterback, whatever, and we'll see what happens with that. But like, I kind of want to see also like how he responds and how I'm curious. What do you guys think will happen? What do you like?
Yeah,
I think you're
Ethan?
definitely right, Joe. Sorry. I do want to pay attention to time a little bit. So, Joe, I think you're super right that like this is a huge crossroad, but I do want to talk about Desean Watson a little bit and that crossroad because it's a different situation. It's Desean Watson being like, I don't want anything to do with this team anymore, rather than the team being like, I don't want anything to do with this quarterback anymore. It's a different psychological thing. So Jared Goff, people are like talking down. He's the underdog. He can have this chip on his shoulder. He can come back strong next season and he can boost his stock, like you're saying, Joe. Deshaun Watson kind of has to do that. He kind of has to have a strong season next season if he's gonna start a new chapter of his career. Because if he leaves this team and performs poorly or he struggles, like that's gonna reduce his stock a lot. So It's actually interesting, Joe, because he's in like the parallel of the situation that you just mentioned with Goff, both of which are really compelling to watch and are really interesting. I know, Will, if you wanted to say some stuff about Deshaun Watson too.
Yeah, I think Deshaun's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but his issues with the Texans are not about the football field, but it's about the way the front office looks at him. When they were interviewing for coaches and general managers, they didn't even talk to him, and he found that was like a middle finger to him.
Well, he was told sorry to interrupt you. He was told, I think, upon agreement that he would be involved in the process, and then they just
exactly, and he wasn't. I think Deshaun's going to end up staying, but he is losing years in Houston, just like Stafford did, because he could be really good if he had weapons, a good coach, and a good defense.
Yeah.
Because they just lost. J.J. Watt literally just got released. There's a lot of dysfunction in that organization.
I think he's gone. Texans are a disaster. Traded away Hopkins. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, how do you get rid of if they find a way to cling on to Watson, it's almost like just let him go because the team's already gutted themselves in such a stupid manner already. Getting rid of
Johnson. Who cares about David Johnson? Not to me.
Terrible.
Not Hopkins.
That was so terrible. That was terrible. And it's like it's a terrible look because the reason why they do those trades is because not even because of the actual trying to improve the team, but they have so much dysfunction within it that that Hopkins wouldn't get along with like the coach. Like he wasn't getting along with he wasn't getting along with the front office or anything as well. Like what does that speak to? Like no superstar is going to want to play for that team when the front office doesn't have good relationships with the best players. There's no appeal there. I think he should walk. And I think that, and the last thing I'll say for, I know Theo, you want to get a little word in on the situation as well. I think that if he leaves the team, like you said, there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of perform. He's just got to be the same that he's always been. He's just got to be himself. Like he can't, I don't think he should try to put too much pressure on himself. Obviously you want to elevate your level as much as you can, but he's got to kind of just like step back and say, hey, I've been playing at this high level for a long time now. I just need to continue to do what I've been doing. And if I'm surrounded by better weapons, it'll get the job done. That's what I honestly think that he needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I really wanted to say is almost like emotionally wise, I just feel bad for Desean Watson because I feel like, I don't know if you guys probably saw this clip, but it was like JJ Watt and him walking off the field and he was like, I'm sorry, like we wasted 4 years or whatever. And I was like, yeah, like honestly, that's true. Like such a good player, he's such a good quarterback, and I know like yeah, maybe they had that one like potential playoff season, but didn't they lose in the first round? Like
that's less my point rather than like I think that sort of speaks to the just attitude and morale of the Texans. Like they're not like, yeah, let's get after it next season. Like let's do this. We can come back. We can get this back together. We can put things together. We can construct a winning team. I'm sorry. We couldn't do this in the past. Like how fucked of an outlook is that?
There's
like,
no like trust in the front office to like have that hope. There's no source of hope. It's like every year is just like another year of like dysfunction and just really bad.
Yeah, people forget the 2019 playoffs. The Texans were up 24-0 against the Chiefs. They could have won that game. They should have won that game. And this Texans team would look a lot different if they won that game. A lot different. Yeah. Ever since then, it's gone downhill.
They won the Super Bowl. They literally could have won the Super Bowl if they won that game. Like who knows?
Absolutely.
So they gutted the team with the most ridiculous trade. Like that was like everyone was like that trade happened. I remember, and everyone's like, "This is a robbery from the beginning." And then people are like, "You know what? Maybe he knows something that we don't." And then it was literally just reaffirmed with DeAndre Hopkins having a spectacular season and David Johnson once again disappointing. He's a great guy, David Johnson. Like I don't mean it in a way that he's like he's a great person, just not a good football player anymore. Really, like he doesn't hold the same value as a DeAndre Hopkins brings to the table at the wide receiver position that he brings to the running back position. Oh, you know, he's a great locker room presence, and he's a solid player, but he's not a superstar anymore. And it's just how it is.
Yeah. And like I just wanted to add one more thing to my previous point is that like I think for Desean Watson, yeah, Wacker, I completely agree with you. The fact that they're apologizing for him losing seasons because he's at a team is awful and should not be the outlook of the team. But I also think, I mean, I don't want to keep rehashing things, but I think that the main thing is like you guys were really focused on the front office and the problems off the field, but I think it's like if I were to give it like 60% front office, 60% off the field, but there's also a good amount of problems on the field and actually playing the game of football where he was probably like, first of all, there's not a winning mentality. Like, why am I still here? And on top of that, then he had problems on the field where they lost DeAndre Hopkins and then they're left with nothing. And like, he's probably like,
no O-line as well.
What?
I was going to say no O-line as well. Like
and as a quarterback, no line and no targets. Like, what the hell are you supposed to do? Just sit there and like get nailed? Like, I don't know. I just feel bad for him, and I hope he gets out of there. But who knows?
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like he's like a generational kind of guy. Like I've seen a lot of like Patrick Mahomes potential in Watson. Just from what I've seen, that kind of stuff. And you know, they had Hopkins, they had Watt, they had some talent, and it's been tough to watch it go downhill for a while. But With that being said, I think we transition to the NBA now because I do want to talk about my Utah Jazz, my favorite team in the league. What did I say at the beginning of the season, guys? I know. Okay, I'm gonna stop boasting. I know it can get old, but I'm really happy with the way they've been playing this season, and the improvements aren't because like anyone's shooting a ridiculous percentage or anybody's playing out of their minds. It's because it's good, well-oiled team basketball, great ball movement, great transition defense, really good switching on defense. They're knocking down their threes. Mike Conley is learning how to play with Gobert, return to form like he was in Memphis. Bogdanovich is back. He's still coming back from his wrist injury, but shots are falling for him. And Clarkson is looking like the sixth man of the year. And I would argue Donovan should be considered for MVP, even though most people aren't talking about that. So there's a lot of things going right for this team. I see Wilf just absolutely rolling his eyes at that, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So what do you guys have to say about the 20-5 Utah Jazz?
It's crazy how they've done this. Like, do not get me wrong.
It's not crazy.
There's still something when I see the Jazz, I know they're going to lose in the second or third round in the playoffs. They just remind me so much of the
24 and 5.
Exactly.
They're not 25. Yeah.
To me, they're the 2014 Clippers. Insane in the regular season. They're insane.
So
dude.
disrespectful. You're not even basing that on any fact. Like you're just basing it
Yes,
off of their performance in the playoffs like the last 2 years. They are the number one three-point shooting team in the league. Top 3 defense. Like every top 5 offense.
What they've done is insane. I'm not.
No, it's not what they've done. It's what they're doing. Every statistical measure says that this is a team that matches every other championship contender from the past couple years. Like they've checked the boxes needed to contend for a championship and possibly win one. So while if you have a basketball argument for why the Jazz aren't going to win the championship,
I don't.
Sure
they're the best team in basketball right now. They're the best team in basketball.
You can't just say this team's going to lose like that. That's like the argument that
I told you what I think
against LeBron for the last like 5 years, and he'd make it to the finals. You can't just say this team's going to lose.
It's the same thing with you with Brady in the NFL. I think LeBron, right, in the finals. Look, they're the best team in basketball right now. I can't deny that. They're insane. It's just, I don't know. I guess it's gut.
Yeah,
it might be gut, or it might just be like a lack of respect for the organization because because of their 3-1 lead blowing last season. I think that's a lot.
I just respect LeBron's goatness.
I have started to watch a lot more Jazz because Ethan talks about it all the time. But they've really impressed me, and they remind me a lot of the Miami Heat from last year, just in that like they're so fundamentally sound. Everyone's contributing nightly, and really it's just a solid team that definitely feels like they're overperforming. The only issue that I have with that, and like I think this is a pretty good. I think this is the argument that Wilf you have in mind, is that at a certain point, like I just think that like individual talent, like that's always gonna like just gonna beat the fundamentals. And like when you meet a team with AD and LeBron, or like Kyrie, Harden, and KD, like I think that like switching and like that like fundamental like style of play, like at a certain point it just can't compete with that.
I do think that's wrong,
like the Heat
because so I could understand the argument coming from Wilf or coming from Jacob saying like the Lakers are a better team because of LeBron, because of AD. They're taking it easy right now. When they're playing full force, the Jazz are not going to beat that team. That's fine. I'll accept that argument. You know, obviously me accepting your argument has no implications on whether you get to make it or not. But I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand. You feel strongly about the Lakers. You feel strongly about LeBron, possible greatest player of all time. Sure. However, the Nets have not proven anything. Like all they've done is be shitty at defense and score a lot of points and lose close games this year.
They looked good. They looked great last night.
They beat the Lakers by like 10.
Last night, that's true. But I'm talking about throughout the whole season. Throughout the whole season, the Nets haven't really proven anything. So I don't think you could like, and I understand talent-driven league, but they kind of have a really like, other than that, like what's on their roster? You know what I mean? So you're talking about a talent-driven league. It's talent paired with some depth, some adept coaching, which, you know, we've seen Steve Nash's first head coaching gig, and he has all this talent, and like I was optimistic for him, and yet they're not as good as everybody thinks. In fact, they're a lot worse than a lot of people think.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I think in the NBA, like you said, talent-driven league, but like I think talent can only get you so far. I think talent is what gets you to the playoffs. I think like cohesion is what wins you a championship or gets you to the conference championship and wins a conference championship. Like you won't get deeper in the playoffs without having a team that actually gels and has the talent together. That's why teams with LeBron are always so successful, because he's not only such a great player, but he has a way of making a team melt and like gel together very successfully right from the beginning. Just how he just the respect and everything, the culture that he demands when he comes in, he automatically does that. Do I think the Nets could have a chance though? Like, is it too? I think it's too early to say that cohesion can't be formed. But I would definitely agree with what you're saying, that they haven't really proved much. They have a lot of talent, and it's like cool, and it's like, and everyone is like, it's like, oh, imagine like before the season, like if people would said, imagine if Kyrie, Harden, and KD were on the same team, and Steve Nash was the coach, you'd be like, you're high. But like no, but like look what's happening. Like it's happened. But like,
and they're not even taking over the NBA like that. Like,
there's only one basketball guy. Like that's the thing, and that's why I love the Sixers right now. The way they're playing. I know they lost to the Jazz a couple of days ago.
Dude, the Sixers, I like the Sixers a lot. I think Embiid's MVP case is starting to get over exaggerated now.
No, I wasn't talking about Embiid. I was just saying the Sixers are my team in the East right now, as much as I hate Philadelphia.
It's going to be interesting. Actually, so the East, very interesting conversation. Wilf, what do you think of the Bucks out East?
They've lost 3 out of the last 4. Like I said, like, I don't know. Giannis still doesn't have that guy. I know they said they would get him. It's just, I don't know. They're just not the way. When I watch them, I don't know how to explain it. It's just they don't look scary to me.
I personally I haven't seen enough out of Giannis. Like I know he's had like 2 really incredible years, but like that he hasn't taken that next step up. Like he's still missing jumpers. He's still missing like free throws at like way too high of a clip. Like Giannis is just, he's not LeBron. Like he's not Kawhi. He's not one of those guys that can just like win a game by himself. Like I don't see it.
They've lost 5 straight, right?
I'm not sure, but just to address that, I was against that argument the last 2 years because, you know, Giannis is just Giannis. Like, I'm so stunned for most of the game whenever I watch him because when he goes to the rim, you can't stop him. But this season, like, you're right. Like, they made a trade to get Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton's been shooting badly, but he's still Chris Middleton. They've got
very well.
Yeah. And what's that?
I think Middleton's been shooting like very, very well.
No, but he's been in a slump in this losing streak. I mean,
okay, recently maybe.
Like, he's been slumping here, but still, when you have that much talent, you're expected to be a championship contender, and you've been on top of the league for the past 2 seasons. You're a 2-time MVP. Who else is a 2-time MVP? Steph, LeBron, like game changers, guys that you know they're going to be conference finals level every single year. However, you know, I was against this before, but now I'm starting to think, is Giannis conference finals level every year? Low key, no. Low key, this dude could be stopped in the second round, and I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I would be surprised if he got knocked out in the first, but I also wouldn't be like, oh, that's fucking out of the realm of possibility. Sorry for my profanity, but like, you know, it's not the same, Jacob. I agree with what you're saying. Go ahead, Joe.
It's kind of sad. I mean, like, I'm like starting to like look back, and I'm just like, you know, the end. Like, obviously, like Giannis deserved the MVPs that he got. Like, he's a great player and everything. It's like you look back and they're like, it's like the league is like, I'm a huge believer in like the narratives and everything, and I think we're all pretty big believers in like this narratives of things happening, whatever. But like, it's like you're from Milwaukee, like you have a small market team, and this guy Giannis who's like Giannis can't even pronounce his last name from God knows where, and he's tearing up the league.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's give this guy the MVP. But like, okay, like I don't even want to like, I'm not trying to discredit him. Like, but I don't think I at this point it's true. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks like they get to the playoffs, like they're super good in the regular season, whatever, and then they just get wiped, and it's like no one has a second thought about it. Like it doesn't even surprise anyone anymore, and that's a problem. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they get wiped out like right away. Like it's not really like it's not something that like is a huge like red light goes off in my head, and I'm like, how did that just happen? Like it's just classic. Like at this point, they gotta figure it out because like. At this point, it's getting it's like scary hours for them. Like they got to figure it out because they got the guys, like you said, they're not putting it together though. And when you get the guys and you can't put it together, then it's like kind of start to panic and things can go downhill really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we definitely covered all the bases there. When talking about the NBA, we went with Wacker, loving the Jazz. Obviously, they are looking good. I'm not gonna lie. And then we got into Giannis and the Bucks, but no, I think the NBA is going to be really exciting this year. I'm excited to see what happens, where it ends up going. Personally, I'm a big Nets Lakers guy, but you know that also rides a lot on AD. So, but thank you guys so much for listening. Great episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace, guys.
Peace, guys. Happy President's Day weekend last week.